The first point of entry to your Peaqs experience is in your email inbox. Everything starts with getting invited via email, either sent to you by the Peaqs team directly or from your institution super admin. So make sure that you receive the email. It has the subject line, Peaqs, invitation to become an administrator. So check for the invitation mail in your inbox and check your spam filter just in case. And if you're still not getting the email, ask your super admin if they have remembered to invite you and if they're using the correct email. Once you've opened your mail, there's some instructionary information you should make sure to read carefully. And at the bottom, you'll see a guide to get started. You should notice one very important thing, which is to use a Chrome browser the first time and every time you use Peaqs. The system runs over an internet browser, and we've chosen Chrome because it's free, reliable, and one of the safest browsers out there. If you log on via an unsupported browser, we can't guarantee that your Peaqs session will work in its entirety. So it's really important to use Chrome. Okay, let's assume you're using Chrome, have received the invitation mail, and want to get started. Press the link at the bottom of the invitation. Then you're taken to a page where you can create your username and password. Like any other web service, save the password in the browser if it asks you, or make sure to write your password down for next time you need access to Peaqs. So now you're in, and you have arrived at a page called Home. In here, you start setting up your new Peaqs session called a market, or manage the markets you've already created under existing markets. Here they can be exported and edited. Just before we start creating a new market, we'll just scroll down to the bottom of this page and you can see that we've left you with a number of resources to support you. There's a really meticulous video tutorial explaining the whole concept of Peaqs and the various roles and configuration options. There's also a teaching note and an FAQ covering some of the same topics as we're highlighting in today's video. Alright, let's get back to creating a new market from the bottom up. Just press this blue button and you're led to a page with 6 setup steps. So step 1 is determining your location, class size, and academic level. There's also a blue button to load up your learning resources so they are easily available for your participants. As you can see, it's a form that can hold information about your class and institution and give you the option to describe your course or load up a pre-made PDF page of your course plan. Maybe you just want to leave some useful information behind about how your participants should evaluate projects or give each other feedback. And it's always a good idea to add some context about the way you imagine your participants to go about their work in Peaqs. You can also add videos, start forming a reading list, assigning it to a particular lesson, or add URLs to external pages, maybe for a podcast or similar. There's a distinction between the mandatory reading list and the extracurricular resources that you may want to draw into attention. If this learning resource part is too time-consuming for you, you can leave it for later and just move on to step 2 immediately, which is giving your Peaqs session a name. It's called Market Name. Then you decide which engagement interactions you want to enable for the session. And just for the sake of it, we'll turn all of them on for now. You can turn these interactions on and off mid-game. So if you'd prefer that there's only investing going on once your participants are done with the first few phases of Peaqs, you can turn it on and switch it off again at your choosing. Okay, we're done with our interactions, then let's move on to the headlines. First of all, there's a headline for each of the 4 phases. You can change them to fit to your learning flow or leave the default headlines. After this, you move into the subsections. We call these templates in phase 2 and 4. Press Define and you can start working on the headlines as well. The grayed out areas is where your participants with entrepreneur profiles will start uploading their projects. Okay, so I'm happy with my headlines. I press OK or move on to the remaining templates for phase 2 and 4. And as with the rest of the settings, you can always go back even mid-game and change these headlines if you realize you'd like to change them. Step 4 enables you to timebox the start of the game when phase 1 through 4 opens and when the entire Peaqs session should close, or marker close as we call it. This flexibility allows you to time the work progression according to your course plan and to keep your participants at the level stage of progress. Make sure to time these 6 duration options successively. If you need 2 phases to open at the same time, maybe just separate them with, say, 15 minutes. A final point to make about the durations are that you can have the marker closed to match with the flow you want for your participants, but perhaps you'd afterwards like to have access to the entire market, in which case you can just return to the step and set marker close to a new date. Step 5 is about inviting your participants and designating their roles in your Peaqs session. It's quite simple because you just copy-paste emails into this field. Make sure they're comma-separated. The system will highlight doubles. You do the same for your investor profile, and if you want your participants to have both roles, make sure to add the emails in both invitation flows. An important note to emails in general is to keep in mind that most people have more than one email account, and the one you have might not be their primary email address. Some of your participants may be getting back to you because they aren't looking at their invitation mails in the correct inbox, so somehow emphasize that they should check the proper account. And if this fails, double check in the spam folder, as it can sometimes happen that they end up there. But anyhow, invitation mails are critical in regards to getting your participants on board, so make sure your participants are using the proper inbox when they look for their invitation mail. So now you're almost ready. You basically tailored your Peaqs session to follow your course plan and the curriculum of learning flow you set out to do. The final step is either save your work here as a draft, in which case you'll have to return and press publish once you want your participants to receive invitations. It's useful to save a draft if you're still unsure about the timing, duration, or headlines for your Peaqs sessions, but you still want to save the work you've already put into it. You need to fill out all phases in order to save a draft. Don't leave empty fields. This also means adding at least one email address in each of the email invitation fields. Once everything is set to go and you're ready to go live, you press Publish Market and emails will start flying out to all your participants. You can still go back and edit, but now your participants will start using the sessions and they may have noticed the changes you make. If you want to add participants after the session is published, simply add them to the email flow that corresponds to the profile you want them to have, and that's no problem. If you want to delete users from the session, simply remove their emails. If you add or subtract users after your initial batch of participants, remember to press update, otherwise they won't be added or deleted if that's what you want to do. So that was getting started as an admin and setting up your first Peaqs session or market. I hope you found the video useful. There are more tips for Peaqs at the bottom of the Manage Profile page or in the FAQ section on the Peaqs website. Thanks for watching.